Welcome to the Nonprofit Exchange. Stories, tools, and wisdom shared by leaders for leaders to help you raise the bar on your own excellence and release the potential inside of you. Now, here's today's show. Welcome, friends. This is the Nonprofit Exchange. I'm Hugh Ballou. This is where we bring conversations with leaders who are transforming organizations through clarity, strategy, and purpose. Today's guest is Loren Richmond Jr., founder of Resonate Purpose, where he helps churches, nonprofits clarify their mission, strengthen communication, and build sustainable strategies for impact. Loren brings a unique blend of theological insight and business strategy, holding both an MDiv and an MBA with nonprofit emphasis. His work spans church leadership, chaplaincy, nonprofit consulting, and media, helping organizations move from confusion to clarity so they can lead with confidence and purpose. Loren, welcome to the show. Let's start out with you work with leaders who feel stuck or unclear about their direction. So before we talk about strategy, what does clarity really mean in the context of mission-driven leadership?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this conversation. Glad to be here. I think clarity just is clear direction and knowing what your purpose really is about. I think in mission-driven organizations, there's so much that needs to be done. There's so much that could be done that it's easy to get spread out, spread thin, and diluted in your impact because you're chasing after every good idea and every need that comes in front of in front of you or on your desk.
We're grouping all nonprofits together. We have nuances for each one of them, but
Right.
generically, leadership is the same, whether you're leading a local church or synagogue or large or small cause-based charity. We call it nonprofits. They're all a difficult place to lead because you got a whole lot of variables here. So, what are
Right.
the most common signs a nonprofit or church has lost its mission clarity?
Yeah, I think you could say this two different ways. One is they don't know how to say no to anything, or they say yes to everything. I mean, I suppose I should elaborate, but I think really it's it's so important to be able to say no to things that are good, but not in line with your mission or vision.
So people, we have it clear in our mind, but we haven't really transferred that to other people's minds and written it up. So we tend to want to go right to implementation or right to strategy
Right.
or right to the work without first clarifying our mission. Do you see that often? And what's the problem with that?
Well, I do, and I think it's because like most humans, we have a desire to do something. Like when there's a tragedy, when someone you know well like suffers a loss in their family or their loved ones, like we all like want to do something. We want to say something. So certainly there's that drive within us to want to take action immediately. And I think that's where a lot of it comes down to. And if we're not careful, we'll find ourselves doing things that are not necessarily like helping out our long-term mission or vision or really pulling resources, time, energy, all those things away from what we really need to be focusing on. So that's why when there's so much pressure, especially like in times of crisis or in times of uncertainty to do, that's where it's especially important to even pause, if only just for a few moments, to think about like, is this really what we want to be about?
Thinking is good. You referred
Yeah.
to it earlier. I'm going to come back to this. Um, in the common behaviors that we see, I want to say right here, I teach this stuff. That doesn't mean I'm not guilty of doing the same thing. So
Right.
I learn something new every day. But coming back and when I have conversations with people like you, so would say to those people out there who are leaders, say, I know all this. Well, wait a minute. Just get a refresher because there might be something that you've lost your focus about. So you,
Right.
you talked about not being able to say no, but I ask entrepreneurs of all types, which nonprofit leaders or social entrepreneurs, who's your market? Well, everybody. Well, wait a minute. What's the consequences of trying to be everything to everyone?
Yeah. Like this is something that I like I've I talk about this because like I've lived this out myself. like this idea of trying to be a generalist, and I'm someone who loves to learn and to imagine and think about ideas and take in information from all across the spectrum. Like one of my favorite things to do is just like, scroll social media, watch the news because I feel like I'm taking in random ideas that I find connections to. But I've realized like I can't just spam out random information all the time. Like if for one, it doesn't connect with my audience, who I'm intending to reach. So for me, like I'm wanting to connect with nonprofit leaders. I'm wanting to connect with church leaders, and they may not necessarily care about like, you know, um, the new automated ball strike system in baseball, for instance. So I've got to make sure if I'm communicating with them that I'm making a clear connection to, again, like how I think the automated ball strike system or the pitch clock in baseball. We're right at the start of baseball, so baseball is in my head here. But how that connects and what might be a parallel to the organization they're leading. So again, this is something I've been thinking about. Like in how many industries do we actually like do things improve by making them shorter or by doing less? And something that's fascinating, I think, about Major League Baseball of late is the last couple years they've had a pitch clock and it's shortened games and made the product a lot more, I think, palatable to watch on television and especially in person. So again, the tendency is to do more, take in more, expand, but baseball by um, shortening the game, I think, has made a lot more valuable to watch and be a part of as a consumer.
Let me go back again to something else you said. You said thinking several times. And
Hmm.
one of my mentors who I studied facilitation with, I was proud to present a plan to him, and he said, Hugh, I knew right there I was in trouble. Pause. You didn't give yourself time to think. So, what
Yeah.
are the consequences of not spending time thinking through things?
I actually feel this myself when I don't give myself enough time to think. Like I'm one to overcommit myself. So again, perfect analogy here for a nonprofit leader. It's like to overcommit yourself to things. So for me, when I feel like I'm overcommitting and overinvolved, I'm feeling scattered. I'm feeling run down. I'm feeling um, overcommitted. Whereas if I have time to think about something and process it, and again, that time is gonna vary for different people, but then I can go into an endeavor knowing like, hey, I've done the work on this, I've done the math, whatever kind of process you need to go through to know that it's a good decision for you and for your organization.
You work with leaders, helping them either redefine or maybe in some cases define or clarify their mission. So, a mission statement is words on paper. So, talk about what it takes to clarify your mission. And then part B of this, how do you make that mission statement actionable?
I mean, I think to answer the second part first, that's like the hardest part is not having them just words on a page. So making sure they're something you can hold yourself accountable to. So I'm going backwards here in your question, but for again, I work with churches often too, and it's like we want to we want to show the love of God. Well, that's great. Like I want everybody to show the love of God. How are we going to show the love of God? That might be something to clarify whether or not in your mission statement or in a follow-up document. Now, I think the first part of your question, right, was about trying to figure that out, trying to figure out what your mission statement is. My big thing is listening, whether that's listening to your community, listening to one another, listening uh, in in my context, working with churches, listening to where they believe God is directing them. So I think listening, again, I've said before, curiosity is important, and trying to pay attention to what the needs are in your community and how you can be a part in helping that.
How does this, that's one of your superpowers you talked about earlier, is curiosity.
Yeah.
Um, that's really a good thing because we tend to get, and I'm including myself, we tend to get locked into some sort of blind spots where we aren't curious enough and we think we got it all figured out. How do you inspire people to get out of that syndrome?
Well, I think it really like you really have to begin to shift your mindset to that when you walk into a space or into a group setting you're not familiar with, to I mean, we all want to make snap judgments, and I think, we might say like scientifically, like there's reasons why our brain does this, and it's probably for good reason to shape our our ability to respond to whatever comes next, whatever stimuli comes at us next. But let me give you an example. Like a few weeks ago, I went to get a haircut at somewhere that it was clear, like walking into the space of the haircut, like it was clear that this person voted very differently than me, right? Probably held very different political opinions than I did. And like just looking around, I was like, oh, this is interesting. So rather than to make like a snap opinions about like what kind of person this barber was, whether my conversation would be welcome or even this is the person I want to hang out with, I try to be curious and ask questions and learn about their perspective. And interestingly enough, like in the middle of the conversation, this woman told me about the tragic loss of her son on a motorcycle a couple years ago. And I think that was a moment that I never would have had. If I would immediately said, "Oh, this is the kind of person like that I shouldn't talk to." I should just like avoid her altogether. B, walk in the space and been shut down rather than curious.
That's really good because underneath leadership, underneath fundraising, underneath communications is relationship, isn't it?
Right, right, right,
So the basement. So that's a very good observation because we I think we all have biases. We just have to realize what they are and try to
right.
overcome the ego part of that. Um, so there's a lot of options. A couple of things. When I help people describing my work as a vision, which is your concept, your mission is, okay, this is what we do, this is how we achieve it. I don't know how you define it, but still being clear on those two things. What are we? What do we do? Um, so we want to hone in on who it is we serve and what value that we provide them. So where does discernment come in this? Because we can do I thought leaders want to do everything. I said, okay, you can do anything you want, but you can't do everything. So how do you
Yeah.
help people drill down to what's doable and what's doable next?
Well, let me say one quick thing just about talking to your ideal clients, because this is something even pastors can do, or a nonprofit leader, because in communication, and there's often this suggestion of like find your target demographic who you're talking to. Even in church, I'm a part of a preaching cohort for pastors, and listening to the conversation of late, some of the pastors have come to this realization like, oh my goodness, even if I find that I'm talking to this one person in mind, somehow it resonates for other people. Like it's counterintuitive, right? Um, so I think like with that discernment piece is thinking about like what are you really wanting to communicate? Who are you really wanting to communicate it to? How do you want it to impact them? Um, so for me, like I think about like my ideal client is like a nonprofit leader or a pastor who's just like stuck. They just are like doing like the face palm thing. Like that's my image. Someone who's just like, elbow on their desk, their their face is buried in their palm, and they're just like, I don't know what to do. And that's who I try to communicate to.
So talk more about the stuck thing, because I think all of us at some point have felt like we've been stuck. So what does stuck look like, and how can you inspire people to find the pathway out of that?
Well, gosh, I think it looks like sometimes different things to different people, and the stuckness thing resonates so much for me because like I've been stuck myself, like I've really been stuck in a bad way. And it's something where like when you're stuck, you just kind of get stuck in these routines of like doing things the same way, assuming the same outcomes, um, not looking for alternatives. And I think, especially when you're stuck, taking big leaps feels all the more ridiculous and all the more impossible. So for me, what's been helpful, and I think this is helpful for in many contexts, is trying to find small bets. Because like when you're stuck, you need like those small wins to give you encouragement and confidence to move forward. So if you can find some like small wins, For me, like when I was in a really bad stuck place, like one of my small wins was just like meeting my step count on my watch. And I could feel good at the end of the day, like, hey, I got my step count in.
So let's go back to clarity a minute. We're these all these things tie together.
Hmm.
It's a circular conversation because they all fit together. So I spoke about relationships. So we're building teams. Teams would be your staff, your volunteers, your board, your stakeholders, all of them, your donors. You
Yep.
know, so how do you build alignment from this mission through your strategy that engages people?
Can you ask that question again?
Well, you've got a lot of things. We're doing a lot of things. So we're talking about the clarity of what it is we're doing and why we're doing it and the impact of our work. So why is all of that important in building the team unity, building the synergy with all these different factions? I use the word team, but it could be board, it could be staff, it could be your stakeholders, donors, it could be anything. So why is this clarity important to
Well,
alignment for those?
sure. Let me say it perhaps this way, like because this is with I'm seeing this right now in a nonprofit I'm working with, where it just feels like there's not alignment. There's this person out here doing that thing, and this member of the nonprofit board doing another thing. Like these are good things. Like they're not bad things per se, but it's just like it feels like wasted energy. And I think what happens when there's not wasted energy per se, or not at least synergistic energy alignment, like people get worn out because they feel like, oh, I'm doing all this stuff, and like it's not there's not seeing like a bigger win at the end, where when folks are in alignment, like they see their energy and efforts working together to bring results. And again, that usually happens when people are clear about what the expectations are, what the goals are, and how each of their parts works together to get to that end.
That is so important because people can feel overwhelmed. But part of let's move into the strategies. The strategy really is an engagement tool. People want to know what you want me to do, but really you created that in the strategy. So talk about the strategy building process. It comes from your clarity. And
Hmm.
how do you keep from getting it too complicated and confusing people?
Well, I think that's the tension, right? Is you want some level of clarity so that people know what they're doing, but also things that can feel too rigid, also like restrictive and binding, and kind of um, limit imagination. So that's where I think like regular communication, just reminding people, hey, this is what our broader mission and vision is. Like, um, is this opportunity in front of us something that fits with it? Is it something we need to say no to? Again, like you said about a donor, like a donor might say, hey, yeah, I'm open to the idea, but not now. So that could be a thing. Like again, it's a maybe, it's a not yet. So to make sure that folks are cl- clear on what they're working together on.
That's really important to create the energy of people working together so we're not doing it all ourselves, isn't it?
Right.
So talk about burnout. How do we create this situation where we burn out as leaders?
Yeah, I think really burnout is just doing a bunch of things that don't like. So let me say this again. Burnout tends to be, at least in my experience, doing a lot of things that don't align with kind of our gifts and callings or what have you. So I know authors I've read talk about job stacking or job crafting to making sure like your work, at least the majority of it, is rewarding to you. Like there's all things like we have to do that are just not fun. Whether that's, I don't know, going over the budget or writing a donor letter or what have you. Like there's parts of the job we don't like connect with. But I'm just not convinced that it's time. Like I'm a person who really like would work like I don't like vacations. I don't like weeks off because then I'm outside my routine. I'm outside of what I like to do. So to me, it's not like that work or time is the thing that leads to burnout. It's doing a bunch of things that don't align with your calling and your passion. So making sure that you're crafting your job, your work week in a way that you're doing more things that reward you rather than take away from what you enjoy.
So folks, if you got that one, that's a gem right there. So he said a lot of really useful things, but that I want to highlight that particular thing. See the joy. It's right in front of you. So capture the
Hmm.
moment, enjoy that moment because maybe you're doing better than you think you are and you're not really burned out. So if you want to write down all these great things, just remember there's a transcript on our website at thenonprofitexchange.org. So, Lauren, where can people find you, your website? For people that are watching this, they can see it, but there's people listening to this on the podcast. So, give us the URL for the website and tell us what people will see when they get there.
Yeah, so I have a couple different sites folks can connect with me. One is my website, resonatepurpose.org, where I have more stuff about, as you're showing right now, kind of that stuck image of that person and that leader,
Mhm.
head desk, which is why I found that image so important. Um, and then I write a lot around church and mission and leadership at Substack at the Church Nerd. So those are two great places where people can connect with me.
There's a guy there.
Yeah, that's
I'm not going to use the word you used, but yeah, we're all in a ministry of sort because we're working to improve people's lives and to take them on a journey of personal fulfillment and personal growth. It's a beautiful website. So it's
yeah. Thank you.
resonatepurpose.org is the primary and how's it work? There's a contact button. So if people contact you, do you respond to them?
Yes, absolutely.
That was a mean question, wasn't it? So Lauren, I want to end up.
Well, I like to leave them hanging, just tease them.
That's it. I want to end up with some rapid fire questions with
Yeah, let's
each
do
of
it.
these a quick answer. One word for you that defines great leadership.
Curiosity.
One habit that every nonprofit leader should develop.
Have a habit. Make sure you have a habit. That's more than one word.
That's right. One sentence is fine. So, what's a most influential book that you've read lately and why?
Oh, I mean, gosh, I have to look at my books. One, of course, is the Bible. I regularly read the scripture. And then this book I want to recommend, The Stories Congregations Tell, was written by some sociologists out of Canada. I think this is really important. This is more than one sentence, but it's talking about the importance of narratives. They talked about it in church, but this applies to nonprofits too. Like, what is the narrative, whether explicit or implicit, that is in your organization? Pay attention to that.
Got a couple more here. What's the biggest mistake people have in defining a mission?
Lack of clarity. If you can't say no to something, it's not clear enough.
And may I add specificity to that?
Yes.
Sorry, couldn't stay out of that one. One piece of advice for struggling leaders.
I think like having something that I have to do like myself all the time to think about like every couple months as a workload scrub. I got this idea from a consultant named Steve Cuss, and he talks about going through what is on your plate, what can you delegate, what can you eliminate. So there's different tools, but I think making sure like your time is aligned with what your ultimate purpose is so important.
As a closing thought, what is one thing every leader should remember about mission and strategy?
I mean, we're all called to something different. So find a way to support yourself, but also those you work with in different ways.
So, Lauren, great advice today. Really, really good. There's a lot of sound bites. So, if you're in the audience, you can find all these great sound bites at thenonprofitexchange.org. Just look for clarity before strategy in the list of the shows. There's a few of them. This one will be toward the top. We're recording this in the first quarter, end of the first quarter, actually, of 2026. You might be looking at it sometime in the future. And Lauren's website is resonatepurpose.org. Resonate, Resonate, purpose.org. This is Hugh Ballou. I'm the host for the Nonprofit Exchange. Remember, you don't build a high performing organization by accident. You orchestrate it with clarity, purpose, and intentional leadership. So, Lauren, thanks for being my guest today.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching The Nonprofit Exchange.